Hello everyone. So this part of our project, we are going to take our newly finished set and put it into a theater, and we are going to go ahead and start decorating our set. The set that I have here, I've gone ahead and brought in the theater from another file. I just copy pasted it from the file that was provided. Make sure that you delete all your extra guidelines so it's not really messy, and that you bring it in all as one component. So now we're going to start by using the common frame of reference in theater geometry, which is the centerline plaster line. As you move from theater to theater, your drawings may be slightly inaccurate. So instead of going from one wall, the back wall, the right side, the left side, we actually go from the center. And that means that everything is going to be perfectly placed in the most important part, which is the center. And if we look at our ground plan, I'm going to unhide it and I'm going to move it out so that we can see it. This is a ground plan of this theater, and the arch, or the proscenium arch, is also called the plaster line, and that's this opening right here. And this opening is represented by these two large pieces here, and this dashed line is the opening. The plaster line is always the upstage side of the proscenium opening. So it's this line right here. And the center line is the line that intersects the center of that plaster line from the front of the stage to the back of the stage. And if you have a proscenium theater, the plaster line is the thing that's never gonna move, right? So I'm going to go ahead and undo so this goes back under our set in exactly the place that it's supposed to be. And I'm going to take the line tool and I'm going to go ahead and draw on my floor, what will soon be my floor, on the plaster line and the center line. And I want to get that cross section in between them. Now, when I select my set, I'm going to select everything in this area, including those crosshairs, and I actually am also going to hide that again and select it. Don't want to get my theater in there. Oh, I should probably make my centerline plaster line over here so I know where I'm going, right? To do that, I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm drawing it from the actual architecture, which is the back of that line, or the back of the plaster line to the back of the plaster line. And now SketchUp will tell me where the center of this line is. There it is. And I'll bring it straight out. And now I'm going to take my selected items and grab my move tool and grab that center point and move it right there. Click and done. And now I know that this is at exactly the correct position. And I can delete all those extra lines that I don't really need anymore. Because once it's in the place it needs to be in, it's in the place it needs to be in. The other thing I want to look at is, now that I've placed it, I'm going to go ahead and go View and unclick Hidden Geometry so that grid isn't in my way. I want to look at how funky some things look. So these two borders are directly intersecting my walls, and I don't like the way that looks from the front. I don't like the way it cuts off those walls, especially right here. So I'm actually going to move them. So I'm going to grab this back one and go ahead and move it back. But as you can see, when I click on it, it's all one component. So I have to double click to get into the component and continue to click until I get that as one movable item. I don't want to double click into it again because I don't want to move individual parts of that component. I want to move the whole component. I want to grab it and make sure that I'm getting this green dashed line, and I don't mind overshooting to make sure I have that green dashed line, because then I'm going to hold shift and make sure that I'm moving exactly backwards. I'm going to move it back to there. I'm going to do the same thing with this border, but I'm not going to lie, I know it's not going to work. Because if I get behind that wall, I'm intersecting this wall. So I have two choices. I can cheat and make this border do something it doesn't really do in real life, which would be to rotate it until it's out of the way of both units. Or I'll alter this wall and make it smaller. I'm actually going to go ahead and alter that wall in a second, because I think that's more appropriate. The other thing I can do is make my legs in the correct position. So this one is intersecting that wall right there. So I'm going to grab it, I'm going to grab my move tool, and I can do the same thing, except I'm just going to move it in the red direction to get it out of the way. And you can adjust these black legs to be in the proper position. This hole right here is not something I want to see, and neither is this hole right here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take both of these back legs and move them in and make sure they're going in the right direction. So I'm going to hold shift and pull them until they meet that wall. Grab this other one and pull until it'll make the background invisible. And that is much better. I've got a little white there, so I'm going to come back in and do that again. Again, making sure that it says on red access only. And now I have a nice invisible background. It's nice and black. Now click out, and now I can fix that wall that was giving me a little trouble. So I'm going to double click on that component, grab that edge, grab my push-pull tool, and just push it until it's gone away. Now that I have a good image there, we can start our decorating.